Good morning. My name is Lisa Dazel from the UNISA Directorate for Counselling and Career Development. A very warm welcome to our presentation this morning, where Chantelle Botha will be sharing with us the recruitment process and also what recruiters look for in a CV. Here with me is my colleague, Mrs. Mando Mukanya, and she will just welcome us to this session. Thank you, Mando.
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, everyone. It gives me pleasure on this day to welcome and to introduce our speaker, who has become the favorite of our virtual platform. She is Chantelle Botha and the founder of Dragon Careers. She is an international speaker, career and life coach. She has a wealth of knowledge that comes from her 20 years of experience working in corporate sales and recruitment agencies. And guess what? She was a runner-up on the X Factor competition in 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Chantelle Botha. And she's not alone. She's accompanied by a colleague, Miss Ashla Costa. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. Thank you for that lovely welcome, Mandu. Like I say, you should know it off by heart, but it sounds like you're learning it very well. Such a pleasure to be here, and so glad to be joined by my colleague Ursula Costa. Ursula considers herself a career aunt. So she is in, she's really passionate about helping the youth empower themselves, being a mom of twins that are in varsity at the moment. This is her calling, and she's here to support me. So she's really just here to observe today. But you're going to get a lot of insight and information from me. So without further ado, what I'd like to do, I don't know if you guys have seen my previous presentations. I always feel with these online sessions a little bit like I'm talking into a bit of a void. So I love to get the interaction. I do love to bounce into the Q&A section from time to time. And I would love it if you guys can just keep the commentary going, because it just keeps the energy high for me. And it shows me that you're out there, and that's really important to me. Okay, so the Q&A section is available to you guys. Please feel free to post your questions, your comments, your commiserations, whatever it might be. And I'm going to periodically ask Lisa just to pick out one or two, and we can just talk through those. Right, so without further ado, let me share my PowerPoint with you people. Great, okay, it looks like it is showing. Lisa, can you just confirm for me we are up and running and set to go?
You can go ahead, Chantelle, just put it in full screen mode.
Ah, there you go, better.
There you go.
Fantastic, fantastic. Right, so we're not talking too much about CV today, but I am going to bring CV in. I always put a cautionary when I talk about CV, and I say CV is but one tool in an arsenal of tools that you have available to you. So please don't put all your eggs in one basket and think that your CV is the be-all and end-all. It is not the be-all and end-all. Your CV is merely a door opener. However, it's a very important door opener. So what I want to ask you guys today, and you can jump into the Q&A section immediately, who wants a CV template? Say yes, say aye, get some excitement going in that Q&A section. And who wants a full CV writing course? I have a digital program called WOW, and the Create Your CV module is but one component of this course. And I'm going to give you some more details at the end. So do stick around until the end of the presentation. Right, so without further ado, let's get into it. As you all know, my name is Chantelle Botha. I run a company called Dragonfly. We specialize in coaching, consulting, and career, all things career. But really what we're about is we're about liberating your self-actualization journey. And I know that's a mouthful, but what that means is helping you on the journey to realizing your full potential. One of my favorite sayings is change your mindset, change your strategy, and you will have changed results. Friends, do you notice what the common theme is there? It's change. And change is uncomfortable for many of us, I know. But here's what I want to tell you today. As we go through this recruitment process, I want you to know that it's important to understand the process so that you can change how you show up. part of the reason you guys are not changing your process or how you're applying for positions is because you don't have a good or a full comprehensive understanding of what the process looks like. So I'm going to take you through the recruitment process today. I'm going to unpack some of the myths for you guys, give you a little bit of insight from the other side of the table. Don't forget, I spent probably a decade as an agency recruiter, and I also spent a couple of years as a line manager recruiting my own staff. So I'm speaking with authority. I've sat on the other side of the table. So let's understand the recruitment process, and then let's understand what recruiters look for in a CV and how you can immediately start differentiating your CV from today's talk. I also just want to give an acknowledgement and a shout out to my mentor, Barney Burkus. He is the author of this book over here, If I Can, You Can. And a big part of my mindset training is all about, if I can, you can. Friends, I'm no different to you. And I have done I've done extraordinary things in my life. I'm nowhere near finished, but my message to you is, if I can, you can. Right, so let's get into it. Lisa, how's that chat box looking? Is there any excitement in the chat box? Is anyone shouting that they would like to get some insight on CVs and courses and all of that?
I think maybe people just still need some time to wake up, but somebody said that, can I have both?
I do love it. You know what? That is the best answer here. Can I have both? Absolutely. You can have that and more. So stick around and I'm going to tell you how we can make it happen. Right. So let's get into the recruitment process. And what I want to do today is, I hope you guys got pen and paper handy, because this little diagram is but a glimpse of the recruitment process. And I'm really going to unpack a live example from my experience as a line manager and just show you how the recruitment process works. What I want you to understand, first of all, is that when a new position arises in a company, there's really only two reasons for a position to be arising. It could be the fact that the person in the position got unhappy and left, or it could be company growth. So that's really the starting point of the recruitment process, okay? So someone either leaves or a new position is created. And there's many different ways that happens, but that's pretty much it. From there, there is a resignation, obviously, and it now becomes official that we have a vacancy. Or, of course, it's the company planning a new role. It becomes official. We are planning a vacancy. And from there, the company will go into advertising, shortlisting, and offer. So this is the recruitment process. But I want to tell you the behind the scenes. I want to tell you how a line manager thinks, how a line manager works. And just by way of context, I was a branch manager for the Stellenbosch branch of the CTU campus. It's a tertiary education institution. And I was there for, I think, just shy of 3 years. So here's the statement I want to make to you this morning. Good managers are always looking for good staff. Now, when I was the manager of the campus, I knew that my facilitators, and I'm pretty sure that my panel from UNISA today can absolutely agree with me here, my facilitators are my absolute core business. If a facilitator called in sick one morning, I had an hour to replace this facilitator to ensure that classes continued. So don't you think that as a manager, and I'm telling you that as a manager, I used to watch my facilitators closely. If one said, I feel like I'm getting sick, I almost proactively made a few calls to make sure that I had facilitators in reserve, just in case he went down with the flu and I needed to replace him. A good manager is always proactively looking for circumstances where he might need to replace his staff. And this is what I did on a continuous basis. Another division that I was very closely managed when I was running the campus was obviously the sales division. And I worked really closely with my sales team, because the bottom line is, if my sales team are not bringing in business, our business is in jeopardy, okay? So I used to watch that sales team for any signs of disengagement. And if I saw any signs that Nadine or Lazan or one of my salespeople were looking for work, I would become proactive about potentially looking for a replacement. Now remember, this is way before the position becomes officially vacant. As a manager, as a good manager who is running my business unit, my biggest priority is making sure that I don't get caught with my pants down, in other words, with no staff. And good managers, it wasn't just me that thinks like this, people, and this is really what I want to impress on you today. So good managers are always looking for good staff. What I used to do on a Friday afternoon is I used to sit on a Friday afternoon and I used to trawl through LinkedIn, and I kept what I called a little black book. And I used to write down names of people that I found on LinkedIn that could potentially become a facilitator, become a salesperson for me. What I used to do is I used to proactively reach out to these people. I'd establish or I'd set up coffee meetings, informational interviews, if you like. And I'd meet with these people and I'd say to them, you know what, I don't have a vacancy. I'm going to level with you, but I don't know what tomorrow holds. I like the look of your experience and I'd like to get to know you a little bit and establish where you're at. Good managers are always doing this and they're always open to these kinds of conversations. Now let's split this conversation down to the two brackets that you see at the bottom of the screen. We've got the hidden job market and we've got the advertised or the public job market. Okay. So when a position becomes, and I'm going to start on this side of the screen, when a position becomes advertised, the minute it becomes advertised, it goes into the public job market. And what I want you to know, what happens then is competition shoots through the roof immediately. So in the hidden job market, while I'm still just actively looking for people, building my contact base of substitutes, as it were, it's still a very limited pool that I'm looking at. There's very little competition because, of course, there's no advertised vacancy. Yet the minute it becomes advertised, let me walk you through what I used to do. The minute a position became a bona fide vacancy that we were pursuing a replacement on. So what I did, we were part of a national group. We had 16 campuses nationally. The first thing I did when I received the resignation is I'd send an email to my staff. Hi guys, so-and-so has resigned. Do you have anyone you could refer to me? So this is the internal referral network at work. Many companies choose this way of recruiting because word of mouth is still proven to be the most effective recruitment technique if you can get it right. So companies prefer recruiting on word of mouth. So that was my step one. My step two, I would then send an email to all my fellow branch managers across the 16 campuses in South Africa, and I'd say, hi guys, I've had a resignation. Do any of your staff want to relocate to Stellenbosch? Okay, so again, internal referral network that I'm accessing. The third step that I employed from there is I would then contact our HR department at head office and say, please advertise this vacancy. When they advertised the vacancy, what they did is the first thing they did is advertised it on the internet. So CTU has a careers portal like most companies. They advertised it on their careers portal. And then they also enlisted the services of a number of recruitment agencies. Assume that the company works with 5 recruitment agencies. So they advertised it on their career portal and then 5 different recruitment agencies were given the spec. Can you see how the competition is immediately starting to ramp up? Because now I've got referrals going, I've got word of mouth happening, I've got the careers portal, and I've got all of my recruitment agencies looking for one person. And this is why I say my advice to you is to understand the hidden job market and start learning to tap into the hidden job market, because that is where your competition is less, but your efficacy goes through the roof. Your statistics, your hit rate are so much higher when you start introducing yourself to potential managers that you'd like to work for. So as much as I looked for potential staff that I'd like to bring on board, you as a job seeker can look for potential employers that would potentially employ you, and you can introduce yourself to them and take it from there. So that is definitely the best way to start looking for work, if you can start accessing and tapping into that hidden job market. Friends, if you wait for an advert to go live, I want you to imagine for a second. I've just told you about 5 recruitment agencies. When I was working for a recruitment agency, I used to receive emails from companies and they would CC in all the agencies they're working with. I worked with one company and I counted I don't want to lie to you. I think it was between 20 and 30 agencies that they were using. Now imagine if each of those agencies submits between 3 and 5 CVs. Multiply that out by the amount of agencies the company is working with. Let's assume the company is only working with 5 agencies and an average of 5 CVs per agency is received. That's 25 really good CVs that they've got in front of them. Not to mention the word of mouth sourcing, not to mention the stuff that's coming off their careers portal. Friends, when you're playing in the advertised job market, when you're applying for vacancies that are advertised, your statistics are significantly less. Global statistics are telling us that 2% of all applicants are interviewed. And I want you to take this to heart from 2 perspectives. The first perspective is, I want you to know that it's not you. Don't doubt yourself when you don't get callbacks from applying. It's the system. It's this competition dynamic that I've just explained to you. It's the way it works, okay? From the other side of things, I want you to be encouraged that there is hope if you go to the hidden job market. They say that up to 80% of all hires are word of mouth hires. Friends, that's a massive statistic. And if you're not playing in the hidden job market, if you're not building the right contacts and creating a network of your choosing strategically, you're missing out on massive opportunities on that side of the public and or of that side of the hidden job market. So I hope that my live example has really given you a little bit of insight into how it works. You see, what you're looking at is you see the vacancy advert, and you're not seeing all of this other stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So I really want you to take this example to heart and to let it encourage you. Now, at this point in time, I want to give you a little bit of an analogy. So I always say that we've got to understand the system in order to work within a system. It's like your K53. I've used this analogy often. It's like your K53 when you're getting your driver's license. You have to learn to drive according to the K53 in order to get your driver's license. Once you've got your driver's license, oh, hell no, you ain't going to be driving according to K53 anymore, okay? But I want you to think today of this recruitment process like a car. You don't need to know how the spark plugs work, how the pistons work, how the engine connects to the petrol and how it makes it go. But you need to understand that there is a petrol pedal, there is a stop pedal, and very often there is a clutch pedal. You need to know how your gears work. You need to know how your flippers work in order to drive. And that's why I present this recruitment process to you. You don't need to understand the back end too much. I'm going to dive into a little bit of the personalities involved as well as the tech involved and expand the analogy from there. But you don't need to understand too much of the behind the scenes stuff. But you need to have a bigger picture awareness of this in order to successfully get where you're going. Right, so on that note, let's move on to the stakeholders involved in the recruitment process. Now you're going to come across 3 key kind of people in this recruitment process that I've told you about. You're going to come across the line manager, and the line manager is effectively, line manager is a catch-all phrase for the person that you would report to. So some of you are accountants, you would report to a finance manager. Some of you are receptionists, you would report to an HR manager or an admin manager. Some of you would report to a CEO or a managing director. All of those titles encompasses line manager. So I really want you to understand that your line manager is at the top of the pyramid, okay? And when I'm talking through these stakeholders, to continue my analogy of driving and working within the system, your drivers have personalities. And when you're on the road and you confront a taxi, you kind of know what to expect because it has a certain personality attached to it. When you come across a student driver, there's a certain personality attached to it. When you come across the Z3 driver who's revving his car, there's a personality attached to that. And that's what I want you to understand. The stakeholders you confront in this recruitment process have different personalities. And you need to show up differently. You perhaps be a little bit more cautious around a taxi and perhaps a bit more confident around a student driver. or whatever it might be, depending on your personal driving style. The point is we show up differently based on the different personalities that we meet along the process. And I'm going to give you a couple of giveaways with these three personalities. So like I say, your line manager is at the top of the pyramid. Your line manager, friends, is the guy who is going to hire you. He's the guy who's going to sign your salary check. He's the guy who's going to sign your offer. And when I talk about the top of the pyramid, he's the most important person you need to impress. Okay, so when you're dealing with recruitment agencies, and I'll talk more about that, they're at the bottom of the pyramid. Understand that the recruitment agency will not make the final decision. The recruitment agency may influence the decision that the line manager makes, but it is the line manager who's going to make the decision. So what I want you to do when you come into contact with line managers, future bosses, what I want you to do is I want you to sit for a moment and I want you to think, what is important to them? Now, generally, as a previous line manager or an ex-line manager, I can tell you what's important to me. In a nutshell, the most important thing to me as a line manager is hiring the best possible person, wait for it, for the lowest possible price. That's the most important thing to me as a line manager. However, having said that, I will fight for someone tooth and nail. And I remember many times going to head office and really negotiating hard for the salary I took on board because they were the right people for my team. So a line manager will go to bat for you. Okay, so understand that although I say he wants it at the lowest possible cost, the reason I say that is because the line manager is measured on his cost and income and expenses, cost and profit, and all of those sorts of things. So it's really important that a line manager maximizes the costs in his business unit. But by the same token, a line manager understands he wants the best possible staff for the role that he is hiring for. Okay, so make sure that you are showing the line manager how you're the best possible person. Make sure that you are quantifying your value add, because if you want him to go and bat for you, if you want him to fight for you, make sure that you've communicated your value add and you're not just sitting passively by. Okay, make sure that you invest in the relationship and the lead up with this line manager to the final hiring or offer process. Let's look at the middle people. The middle people are HR people and internal recruiters. So effectively, they are the people who work in the company, but you don't necessarily report to them. So they would be the talent acquisition people of a company. Now, these personalities, they're measured by different things. They're also driven by different things. Now, think of the Mandus and the Lisas of this world. Those personalities, and again, I mean no disrespect when I say this, but your HR people are generally your soft and fluffy people. They're the people who want to please you, who want to be nice, who want to have nice, comfortable interviews with you. They're also the people that don't really know what's going on in the team. As a line manager, I had a very, very firm handle on who was disengaged in my team, what the potential growth was in my team, where the challenges were, where the skills gaps were in my team. Now, an HR person might not know this because remember, HR people work with generic job specs. They don't work in the team, okay? So they don't have a handle on those team questions. And this is a clue for you as well when you're interviewing. You know, the interviewer always asks, do you have any questions for me? And there are some great generic questions that you can ask, but I want you to split the personalities up. An HR person will not know what's going on in the team, so they'll be able to perhaps tell you about the corporate culture of the company, whereas the line manager will be able to tell you about the team dynamic of the peers that you will be working with. The line manager will tell you what the challenges are in the team, where the HR person will tell you what the generic expectations of the job description are. So remember this when you're dealing with each of them. And then lastly, working with recruitment agencies. Here's what I want you to remember. A recruitment agency is a middleman. A recruitment agency is contracted by the company to find the person. So company phones recruiter and says, I want an accountant, please. These are my criteria. Then the recruiter goes out into the market and finds this accountant. Now, here's where this is relevant. I want you people to understand, getting a bit warm here. I want you people to understand that recruitment agencies are not there to find you a job. That's your job, okay? So a recruitment agent will work with, at any given time, between 10 and 20 open vacancies on their desk at any given time. That is the capacity of a recruitment consultant. Now, if you happen to fit one of those specs, a recruiter will happily give you the time of day, talk to you, converse with you, engage with you, plan with you, all the rest of it. But if you happen to phone, contact, email this recruiter at a time when your your CV or your experience doesn't meet the skills that she's looking for, she's not going to give you the time of day. Friends, I really want you to understand this distinction, because this is what causes so much animosity in the job market. And I've seen so much animosity directed at useless recruiters. I want you guys to understand recruiters work very, very hard. But recruiters don't work for you, the job seeker. You merely happen to be their product. Get this right in your mind, and it'll shift how you show up in the recruitment game. Okay. I also want you to remember that recruiters are inherently salespeople. They are motivated by the placement, not by your placement. So a recruiter gets a spec in, oh, I need to hire an accountant for this firm, really excited, and they already work out, okay, this percentage of the salary, I'm going to be able to bill 50,000 on this invoice. Now, they don't care whether it's Tommy or Jenny or Susie or Philip that they place. They just want to make the placement. Obviously, they want to present the best possible placement to their client, but whether the client chooses between Tommy or Jenny doesn't really matter. They still get their bucks at the end of the day. So again, if you're shortlisted by a recruiter, remember, they're going to blow smoke. They're going to tell you how incredible you think that you are, but they're going to tell that to their next candidate and their next candidate as well, because they're preparing you all equally for an equal chance at success. And this is where the differentiation of career coaches come in. A career coach is the one person who will be completely unbiased with you and say, no, 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 no. Now you're taking the mickey here. This is how we need to do this, okay? So people tend to treat recruitment consultants like mini career coaches or free career coaches. They are not career coaches, and they are not motivated by your placement. They are motivated by the placement. And I really, really hope that this personality differentiator really starts helping you in the way you start showing up. At this point, I do want to say, if you've got any questions, please start popping them in the Q&A. I'm not going to stop the presentation for Q&A, but I know that this is a bit of a mind shift to start thinking about. So please pop your questions in the Q&A, and I will certainly address them afterwards. Right, and then lastly, whilst we're still looking at this recruitment process, let's look at the technology. Just when you thought you only had cars and people to work with, I'm going to tell you the road you travel is also going to determine your success, and that's the technology. What about ATSs? ATS stands for Applicant Tracking System. And what so many people misunderstand is they misunderstand how an ATS works. I've got a great video on my YouTube channel that really unpacks how an ATS works and just understanding an ATS, and I'm not going to dive too much into it, but I'm going to use my car analogy again. If you're driving your Z3 down 1,000 kilometers of really bad gravel road, you think you're going to get where you're going? Probably not. You're probably going to be calling a little way down that road, okay? Yet if you're driving my gorgeous little car, Suzuki Jimny, you're going to get where you're going because that car was built for that road. So make sure that whatever you're doing in the tech, it is built for that tech. And I'm going to give you some key pointers here. ATS is a CV storage system, right? So it's designed to receive CVs, to store CVs, and for recruiters to be able to re-access those CVs. 95% of the vacancies that you apply for, whether you apply online or via email, your CV will land in an ATS system, okay? There are far too many ATSs to talk about the characteristics, but the general rule of thumb is ATS don't like formatting. Okay, so no pictures, this is your CV now, no pictures, no graphics, no columns, no heavy formatting. The heaviest formatting you're going to find on my CV template, bold, underline, italic, boring, isn't it? But friends, you want your CV to get out the other end, don't you? You don't want your CV to get caught in this ATS and be stuck or not be able to be read. And that is the purpose of formatting your CV according to ATS compliant rules. I also want to give you a cautionary when it comes to ATS. When you're in the job market, you'll see a lot of pop-ups and a lot of these sites that jump at you and say to you, test your CV here for ATS compliance. Please don't use them, because they are just thinly veiled marketing schemes to get your business from a CV writing perspective. There is no ATS checker that can categorically tell you whether your CV is ATS compliant or not, and I'll tell you why. Every single company has a different ATS. So how can an independent ATS checker say, yes, you're compliant? They haven't checked that system, or that system, or that system. Friends, there is a top 100 list of ATSs in the world. If there's a top 100 list, does that not give you an insight into how many ATSs there are out there? There are too many for us to have a definitive checker. We have to subscribe to broad rule of thumb, okay? And that's the broad rules that I've given you. No graphics, no colors, no formatting, no columns, no tables. Some of them don't even like serif fonts. So what I would say is use a sans serif font. But keep it simple. That's your general rule of thumb. Don't get caught up in what to and what not to. Just keep it simple. Keep your CV really, really simple. Right, in terms of the other technologies that you're going to come up against, you're going to come up against job boards. Now, job boards are things like your PNet and your Career Junction. And again, it's not necessary for you to know the deep inside workings of them. But what I want you to know is that job boards are built on ATS technology. Okay, so even if you say, oh, I'm not applying directly to the company, so my CV is not going to go through an ATS, a job board is an ATS. Okay, anything that stores CV is an ATS. Okay, so what you need to understand about job boards is job boards are designed for companies to advertise their vacancy, for you to post your CV, and for a connection method between the two. What I also want you to understand about job boards is basically computer technology. And computer technology relies on, or the old adage springs to mind, garbage in, garbage out. Okay, so they're built with very clever AI and all sorts of things, and to try and help the sorting process. But the bottom line is, a job board may pick up on a word that you've got in your CV. Now, that word might not be related at all to anything you've done. I mean, in my CV, I know for a fact I've got the word events in my CV. I am not an events planner. I am not an events coordinator. I never want to be doing events. That's not my gig. Yet, the job boards will suggest event positions to me based on the fact that they found that word in my CV. Okay, so this is where the tech kind of goes wonky. So my advice when it comes to job boards will always ask you, do you want to sign up for alerts? My advice is a big, deep, resounding no. You manage your own job search. Don't rely on alerts, because what alerts are going to do is they're going to contribute to the sense of overwhelm. If you saw my speech last week about addressing job search fatigue, I know you guys are overwhelmed. And it's absolutely, you don't want to create more overwhelm in your life right now, okay? So what you want to do is don't sign up to any alerts. Obviously, if you really want to, you can. But my feeling is that the alerts don't give you the targeted positions. What you really want to do is you want to take 2 hours once a week or every second day, and you want to do a really targeted strategic search through the job boards, the social medias, aggregators, all of that sort of thing, and see what you find. Remembering, though, that the advertised job market is finite. There are only X amount of positions available at any point in time. And once you've hit that limit, once you've applied for, let's say there are only 20 accounting vacancies that suit you, Once you've applied for those 20, it's over. You can't make more out of nothing. And this is again why you have to play in the hidden job market. Because once you've applied for those 20, what's going to happen? You're going to get all nervous. You're going to start thinking, maybe I haven't done enough. Maybe I need to do more. So what's going to happen? You're going to start broadening your search. So you're going to start losing out on your clarity. So you're going to start applying for bookkeeping positions. You know, I'm actually an accountant, but you're going to start applying for bookkeeping positions. Then before you know it, you're applying for reception and call center positions as well. And then again, you're wondering why you're not getting hired. It's because your CV doesn't align to the positions that you're applying for, because you're diluting your applications far too much. Focus on the hidden job market. That's where the gold is. Okay. So when you're using your job boards, use them where you're in control, not where the computer is in control. That's my advice to you. Another thing you're going to come up against in the technology side of things is something called an aggregator. Now, an aggregator is pretty much, an aggregator, in my opinion, is better than a job board, because what an aggregator does, and examples of aggregators are Indeed, Monster, those sorts of things. And what an aggregator does is it goes and it scrapes all of the job boards and it aggregates all the positions onto one site. So for me, instead of going to PNet, Career Junction, Careers 24, I would rather go to Indeed, because there I've got everything. Or I think Adzuna is another one. I forget what the other ones are. But you would rather go to something that has aggregated all of the adverts, and you can see everything there in front of you. Again, an aggregator works very much like a job board in terms of it offers you alerts and all the rest of us. My advice, stay away. You search on aggregators or job boards when you are good and ready, and you apply only for the positions that you are suitable for. And if there happens to be one today, you only apply for one. If there happens to be 3, you only apply for 3. Don't get excited by the fact that you have to drive the numbers up. Drive your numbers in the hidden job market. Start networking with the types of companies and the types of people that you want to hire you. And then the last technology that you're going to come up against in your job search is social media. And social media is being used more and more strategically and effectively by companies. And here's where I want to put a proviso. I don't need to tell you what social media is. We all know what social media is. My proviso to you is, please, before you get into the job market, go and do a social media audit on yourself. Go and Google yourself. Go and ask someone to check out your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Twitter, whatever it is. Go and ask someone who's not connected to you to go and check it out. And ask them one question. What is your perception of me online? Make very sure that you are creating the right perception that's going to support your job search. Just yesterday, I'm going to give you an example. Just yesterday, I watch very closely what my clients do on LinkedIn, because as their coach, it's my responsibility to tailor and to tweak and to say, not quite right, change of this, do that. And I saw yesterday my client made 2 heavily political remarks on political commentary on LinkedIn. And I sent him a WhatsApp immediately, and I said to my friend, I said, be very careful of what you're doing. I said, although what you're saying is perhaps correct, it's dinner table conversation. It could be considered provocative to be putting that sort of thing out on LinkedIn when you're in the job market. Okay, so be very careful of the impression that you're creating in social media. Right, so to wrap up the technology system, I want to give you guys a power punch. One system that is my absolute favorite is, in fact, all 4 of these systems rolled into one. Wait for it. It's LinkedIn. LinkedIn is an applicant tracking system. LinkedIn is a job board. LinkedIn is an aggregator, and LinkedIn is a social media. LinkedIn is, as far as I know, I do need to just double check, but probably about a year ago when I did the last research, LinkedIn is the only platform of its kind that offers all 4 functionalities. Why are you not using LinkedIn to its full benefit? I love LinkedIn, and LinkedIn can open up a whole new world for you. So again, you don't need to understand too much about the systems here, but you do need to understand that you need to take the right road with your car to get where you're going. Make sure you're taking the right road. And I'm telling you today, LinkedIn is the right road. So let's get on to CV, shall we? What do recruiters look for in a CV? Now, friends, I realize this slide is like way information overload. If you want to take a screenshot, you're more than welcome to take a screenshot. This is actually one of my clients. She's a graduate that I worked with last year, successfully in her dream job today. And I really just want to talk you through the key sections in a CV and what recruiters look for in a CV. So first of all, the top half of your first page of your CV, you can see this is the stuff over here on the left-hand side of the screen. Top half, first page, prime real estate. Do not waste it with big words that say curriculum vitae. Do not waste it with a page dedicated to personal details. Can you see how small the personal details are in Mabel's CV? Do not waste it with educational transcripts and making me scroll through pages and pages and pages. Friends, the statistic is, and I use statistics a lot in my presentations because it's important you know them and you use them to your advantage. The statistic is you've got 7 seconds when someone opens your CV to make an impression. They are never going to read your entire CV. They're going to glance at your CV and they're going to think, yes, no, maybe. And that was the technique that I used when I was a recruiter. I used to get, when I was working for Kelly, I used to get 500 CVs in my inbox a day. I guarantee you, I looked at CVs for less than 7 seconds. I didn't have 7 seconds to waste on a CV. I would open a CV and I would ask myself 3 questions, yes, no, or maybe. And I'd move them like that. I had folders and I'd shift them. Those were in the days before we had fancy systems. But that's how I used to do my screening process. Now, if you can make an impact on the top half of your first page, you're already leaning towards a yes. So I'm going to give you the 3 elements I've got on the top half of the first page. Element number 1, you can see right under Mabel's name at the top is what's called a headline. You can put a couple of potential job titles up there. You can put the things that you have differentiated yourself in the marketplace for, the things that you're passionate about, the things that you're good at. Make it like a book title. Make it draw me in. You don't need to call this thing curriculum vitae. We know it's a CV. It's okay. The second thing is this personal and career profile. We want to know a little bit about you. We want to know who are you, what's your value add, and where are you going. Now, I'm not going to read that whole profile, but those things are going to jump out at me. And the other element that I've got on my cover page is this section here that says skills and demonstrated abilities. Now, you've seen CVs that have skills lists, and skills lists go like this. I'm honest. I'm a hard worker. I'm a team player. And my question is, recruiters are very cynical. So my question is, really, so is everybody else. Everyone's a hard worker. Everyone's a team player. I want you to prove it to me. And that's why I've created this section called skills and demonstrated abilities. Because if you say you're good at research, tell me what you've done. Tell me what the outcome is. Prove you're good at it. Okay, so really choose the skills that you want to showcase, and you don't want to showcase 100 skills. You maybe want to showcase 5 skills. Tell me why you're good at them. All right, so that's the top half of your first page, and that is how to create a really good impression when a recruiter opens your CV. In terms of personal details and education, friends, you can see the block on the top of the top right-hand side of the screen. Keep it simple, okay? We really don't need a lot of information. We don't need criminal record, dependence, marital status. We don't need any of that stuff, okay? So keep it really simple. Give me what I need. In a cautionary here, I can't tell you how many CVs I've received over the years that are completely devoid of contact details. Make sure you put your contact details in. In terms of education, there's 3 things we need on a CV. Qualification, institution, year. That's it. No more. If I want your transcripts, I'll ask you for them. Don't send them along with every application. It's not necessary. Right, and then the last section, bottom part of the right-hand side of the screen, is your work experience section. I cannot overemphasize if you're a graduate and you don't have any work experience, do go and find volunteer work, freelance work, internship, help, phone a company and offer to work for free in return for experience, okay? Get something on your CV that can quantify what you can do, that's going to give you a reference, and this is going to give you a leg up. Right, so what you want to put in your work history, all CVs are different, and you'll see my CV is very different to everyone else's CV, but you want to make it so that the layperson can understand the purpose of your position. And that's why I've introduced that thing you can see under her job title. I call it a position overview, and it's a sentence that encapsulates the purpose of your position. And don't forget to include highlights. Friends, I think what I really want to wrap this section, I've shared my whole CV template with you. This is how to create an impactful CV. And just a note, can you see how boring it is? That's for the ATS systems, to make sure you get through those ATS systems. But really just a note, format doesn't matter, content matters. It is outcomes that's going to get you the role. It is not prettification on your CV. So please don't look at this CV and say, oh, I could never do that. It's not pretty enough. Okay. It is the content that the recruiters are going to put you in the yes pile for, not the format. Stop getting your knickers in a twist about these fancy formatted CVs. They're just going to hurt you. Okay, so that's my advice in terms of what recruiters look for in a CV. So in closing, the question is ultimately, how do I make my CV more relevant? First steps first. I always say start with clarity, friends. Clarity I can wrap up in 3 key questions. And if you're taking notes, please write these down. Who are you? What's your value add? Where are you going? If you cannot communicate those 3 points on your CV is worth nothing. Your CV is not relevant. Your CV is not going to be picked up, because I want to know who you are. I want to know what your value add is. What do you bring to my table? And I want to know where you're going. What's your vision? What's your plan? Okay. Without that, your CV is not relevant. And I can honestly say that if I had to do a very quick read of everyone on this call's CVs now today, I can honestly say that 80% of your CVs are not relevant. And I can only say that because I know for a fact I've read over 100,000 CVs in my life. The next thing you want to look at on your CV, you want to make sure that your CV contains outcomes. What did you do and what happened as a result? Change the filing system. Okay, sounds cool. That resulted in 3 days saved time, which translated to a 20% saving on the operational expenses. Now I'm interested. Do you see the difference? You've just got to ask yourself, what did you do? What was the difference that it made? Okay, so that's so important. And if you don't have career outcomes, if you haven't ever worked in your life before, if you don't have career outcomes, I want you to look at your strengths. You can go and do a strengths test online, find a strengths test online. I do have a couple in my WOW program, but go and find a strengths test, figure out what your strengths are. And if your biggest strength is, let's say, strategy, you're really good at strategy, I want you to sit down and I want you to ask yourself, where have I used strategy in my life and what was the outcome? There's no rule book that says your CV has to only talk about work experience. If you're applying for a position and I want someone who's high in strategy or highly skilled in strategy, and you can talk to me about how you plan your friend's baby shower and you used strategy and what you did and what the outcome was using strategy, I'm more interested in you than I am in the person who simply says, I am strategic. Okay, so think about outcomes. Think about how you showcase them. The next point there, I've talked a little bit about content versus format. Please do not get sucked into the trap of thinking that prettification is going to get you the job, because it's not. It is content. What are the words you're using? Are you being clear? Are you showing your outcomes? Are you displaying who you are, what your value add is, and where you're going? Content is king. Content's going to win every single time. A point I'd like to add here is relevance. In my career as a recruiter, I can honestly tell you that for some reason, Call center staff believe they are qualified for every single job on the planet. I never recruited astronaut positions, but I can honestly tell you, if call center staff, if I had an astronaut position, call center staff would be applying. I advertised a CEO vacancy, call center staff were applying. I advertise, it doesn't matter what I advertise. For some reason, call center staff always replied. Now, friends, I want you to be relevant when you apply to the positions, and this comes right back to understanding the recruitment process. And I've said it before in this presentation, apply for those positions you are suited for. If you want your CV to be relevant, you be relevant. Don't apply for positions that are not you, okay? And then lastly, I want to teach you a quick technique called the alignment technique. You must have been wondering what on earth this funny diagram is as I've been talking through this slide. So do you remember in grade school, we had these word lists and we had to draw lines and arrows to these word lists. That's this word list that I've got up on the screen. That, friends, is called alignment. That is the alignment technique. So I want you to take job spec, I want you to take CV, and I want you to draw lines. And this is how you draw up a power cover letter, just by the way. So job spec says, I'm looking for someone who is going to be the friendliest and most efficient receptionist I've ever hired. Okay, job spec. You're going to align on your cover letter. You're going to talk about what you're looking for, Mr. Company, and what I bring to the table. You are pulling the two together. So you're going to say, dear Mr. Company, or dear Mr. Hiring Manager, whatever it is, I noticed you're looking for a really friendly and really efficient receptionist for your company. I received the Friendliness Award 3 years in a row. And not only that, I became known as the face of the company due to my friendly disposition and my efficient manner of handling messages. Isn't that a better way of saying, I answered the phone, I took messages? Be creative, guys. Align and show your outcomes, show your strengths. So that is how you make your CV more relevant. I hope this has been encouraging and helpful, and I really just want to remind you at this point, go bounce back into the Q&A. If you've got any questions, I'm almost wrapping up. Please post your questions. I'd love to talk you through a couple of your questions and really just support you on this side. So lastly, as you all know, my name is Chantelle Botha. I'm from a company called Dragonfly. I operate on 3 platforms. Please feel free to follow me. I'm on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and on Facebook. You can see what my cover pictures look like over there. So please go along and find me. Now, for that person who says she wants a CV template and a CV writing course, and for the rest of you, if you are interested, here's what you can do. You can email me your key takeaways from today's presentation. Pop me an email. There's my email address up on the screen. Pop me an email and tell me what you learned or what you took away from today's presentation. Every single person who replies to me and sends me an email, I will send you a CV template gladly. Okay, so you're guaranteed to get a CV template, but then I'm also going to do a lucky draw out of all of you, and I'm going to award you a free CV writing course. It is a small module of my WOW program, but I am going to give that to you for absolutely nothing. So there you go, and that is that. I hope this has been incredibly valuable for you guys. Lisa, are there any questions?
There are a couple of questions. I'm just going to try and link or lump them together.
Great.
So I'm going to start with some LinkedIn questions. So Refilwe was wondering if you've got any tips on how I can optimize my LinkedIn profile so that recruiters can find me. And then somebody also asked, should I be on LinkedIn before completing the qualification?
100%. Okay, great questions, guys. So I'm going to start with the second one first and then lead into the first question. Should you be on LinkedIn before completing the qualification? I've got a matriculant on my WOW program at the moment. He originated his LinkedIn profile on Friday. Already today, Wednesday, he's got over 20 connections and he is working LinkedIn. So it's never too soon to get onto LinkedIn. What I want you guys to remember, and this leads into LinkedIn optimization, is you cannot just be on LinkedIn. You have to do LinkedIn in order for recruiters to find you. So first of all, you need to present a good profile. And the best way to present a good profile is to look at my CV guidelines, look at content, look at your outcomes, make sure you're communicating your clarity. Have you got a really nice meaty headline on your LinkedIn profile? Okay. So look at these things, create a really good looking profile. Get recommendations on your profile. This is how you can start beefing up your profile. Put your achievements on your profile. Put a really good head and shoulders shot on your profile. Don't put a full-length body shot. Don't put a shot with someone's arm draped across your shoulder. Use some common sense. Okay, so get a really good-looking profile. And then that is effectively how you optimize a LinkedIn profile. From there, optimization is not how it looks. It's based on what you do on LinkedIn. Are you connecting with potential employers on a daily basis? Remember where I started this presentation, I told you as a line manager, I trawled LinkedIn. I looked for potential employees. Are you looking for potential bosses? Are you introducing yourself to potential bosses? Are you having conversations that matter on LinkedIn? And I'm not on LinkedIn and say, hello, I'm looking for a job and would appreciate the likes and shares. Please don't do that. Okay, be clear. Hello, I'm a friendly receptionist. I'm looking for a reception position where I can help people all day, where I can create incredible difference through the efficient handling of messages, and where I can just meet and greet people and add value to the company. If anyone knows of anything, I'd really appreciate the like and share. Post that, because that's being clear. Who are you? What's your value add? Where are you going? That is how you optimize your LinkedIn and get noticed by recruiters. I hope that helps, Raquel.
Thank you, Chantelle. Also linked to LinkedIn, somebody was asking, can I privatize my LinkedIn so that only recruiters can have access? This question also reminds me about an interesting conversation I had with somebody in this week, where they were a bit worried because of their public profile on LinkedIn. Due to the position that they're currently in, they've got a lot of people connecting with them on LinkedIn and sending them direct messages, which is, it's more relevant to helping them with like customer complaints, I would say. So, are there settings on LinkedIn where you could choose who would be able to see your profile?
Okay, so I kind of thrill when I hear that question, because everything in me goes, why would you want to privatize your LinkedIn? Privatizing your Facebook, privatizing your Twitter, all the rest of it, I can understand, because perhaps you'd have political views or views that you don't want a potential employer to see. LinkedIn is a professional networking platform, and up to 90% of all recruiters are using LinkedIn. And when I say recruiters in that context, I'm talking about line managers, recruiters, HR, all the stakeholders. So why would you want to privatize it? Let me explain a little bit what I mean by that. Now, I understand that if you're in a position, and here, Ursula, forgive me, I don't have time to ask you questions, but I know you're going to be okay with this. I'm going to use Ursula as a case study. Ursula's got a full-time job. Ursula also works for Dragonfly as a consultant. Ursula posts on LinkedIn, but she's very careful that she posts awareness building information. She doesn't post anything that's contrary to her full-time job. Okay, she's passionate about empowering youth and all the rest of it, and she doesn't want to create a conflict of interest with her work, which is elder care. She's passionate about that as her job, but she's also passionate about the youth employment. So she posts a lot of stuff, and she talks a lot on LinkedIn about youth empowerment. It's not a conflict of interest. It's not a moonlighting scenario. It's not anything untoward. And what I'm trying to say here is you need to get your point, people, where you know your value add and you're okay to talk about your value add. And employers also need to understand that by you doing that, you're building your case at your employer. What employer doesn't want an incredible evangelist who talks about the thing they do every day? It links back to and reflects to your employer. Having said that, I do understand that some people are incredibly nervous about LinkedIn. And what I want to say to you is the stuff that matters, the stuff that's potentially job seeking stuff, happens in your inbox. It doesn't happen publicly. So please don't privatize your LinkedIn settings. As far as I'm concerned with LinkedIn, the more visible you can be, the more credible you are, and the more people are going to take you seriously. Okay, so I know it's a complete about shift, but yeah, really, really think about that.
Thank you, Chantelle. Paul is asking, you spoke about asking questions during an interview. Can you give a couple of examples of smart questions that you could ask?
Okay, so one of my absolute, and again, Paul, my proviso here, or my caveat here is, first, know who you're talking to. If you're talking to a recruiter, a smart question is not, what's the most important thing about the job? Because the recruiter's a middleman. The line manager is the person you ask that question to. So if you're talking to a recruiter, do you get more positions like this? How often do you get these types of positions? How do I stack up to the competition? Those are important questions, or smart questions you can ask a recruiter. If you're dealing with an HR person, talk to them about the culture of the company at large. Talk to them about the turnover of staff in the company. Talk to them about the biggest challenges from a company perspective, from a recruiting perspective. Again, ask them, how do you stack up against the competition? Those are smart questions you can ask the recruiters and HR people. Line managers, however, remember I said to you, line managers are the gold dust. A line manager knows the team that you're going to be working in intimately. The line manager knows your colleagues. The line manager knows whether you'll fit in or not. One of my favorite questions to ask a line manager, what keeps you up at night? Because that gets to the heart of what's going on in the team and in the dynamic that you're about to move into. You can also ask the line manager about your peers, about your colleagues. My general advice in terms of sort of blanket advice in terms of interview questions is please avoid any HR type questions. Do I get smoke breaks? How long is my lunch hour? What are the benefits? Avoid those questions like the plague. There is a place for them, but your first interview is not the place.
I was just thinking while you were talking about things not to ask, we often hear advice about not asking about salary. Could you maybe expand a bit on that?
You know, I don't know if I agree with that, Lisa. I'm of the firm opinion that let's just boil it right down to grassroots basics, right? Company has problem. Problem is there's a vacancy. I have solution. Solution is I have the skills to plug your vacancy. It's going to cost you. I don't work for free. No one works for free. So I don't have an issue with asking about salary, but I have an issue about when it's timed. You know, if you walk into the interview and you sit down and you say, right, guys, what are you paying for this? Terrible timing. But perhaps, and when I was job searching, I used to ask salary information in the screening call long before the interview even was scheduled, because I just put it on the table and I said, listen, we understand. I mean, I was in corporate sales, and corporate sales, you can earn anywhere from 5 to 500, you know, salaries there's a huge difference. And I always used to say to people on the telephone, I don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste my time. You know what? This is my benchmark. This is what I'm looking for. Am I within your budget? That's simple. Okay. And then on that note, I also want to say, don't ever give a parameter. Don't ever give a range. You don't want to say, I'm looking for between 100 and 200K. You want to say, I'm looking for 150K. That's my number. So know your number, own your number, and talk about it. Contradictory, I know. Controversial, perhaps.
Yeah. Thanks, Chantelle. Somebody asked, what are the most common mistakes that applicants make?
Oh, wow. How long you guys got? Okay, so in the whole recruitment process, I think the biggest mistake applicants make is they don't understand how recruiters work. I pointed a little bit to that in the presentation today. You don't understand how recruiters work. You don't understand how to put a CV together. Job seekers don't understand how to communicate in the job market. But I think if I had to wrap the biggest mistakes up, it comes from a mindset. It comes from a mindset of when you enter the job market, your whole attitude is one of, I'm a contender, please choose me. Whereas your whole attitude needs to be, I'm a solution to your problem. Let's make this work. Guys, let's not forget that the economy is built on jobs, job creation. Your skill is a solution to the company who needs your skill. This is a mutual fit. So I think the biggest mistake that the guys are making, and there are many, and I've unpacked a few of them in this presentation, but the biggest mistake is to go in with the mindset of, please choose me, please find me worthy. You are a solution to the company's problem. Change your mindset, change your strategy, get different results.
Thanks, Chantelle. Let me see. So I'm now going to there's quite a lot of the CV questions. Let's just start with a short one. The length of a CV. So somebody said, is a one-page CV, is that a problem?
Okay, length, very much like oh gosh, no, I've gone completely blank. Length is an absolute misnomer. Every single recruiter you talk to is going to give you different advice when it comes to length. So recruiter A will say 1 page, recruiter B will say 3, you're going to get completely different views on length of CV. What I want to say to you is, if it's relevant, include it. If it takes 1 page, great. If it takes 2 pages, great. But if it's relevant and if the content is key and it's showing your outcomes, include it. But don't include extraneous stuff, criminal record, dependence, marital status. Don't include things that don't need to be on there. So it's not about length, it's about content.
Okay, Chantelle, you did speak about quantifying your contributions. So Zandile is just asking, what is your view on quantifying the contribution as much as possible on my CV? And she gave an example here of I increased sales by 10% in the last quarter. So you did speak about that. Is there maybe something that you would like to add about what you spoke about previously?
Keep doing what you're doing and make sure that the whole world knows about it. So increase sales by 10% in the last quarter. Fantastic. What else did you do? Did you bring a new client on board? How's your relationship building skills? Did you think out of the box? What else did you do? So you know what? Go nuts. Go nuts. Quantify your contributions loud and proud, because if you don't tell them, who will?
Okay. Then also just a content question. Do we include the date of birth or ID number in the CV?
You know, ID number is a bit of a kind of gray area. The thing is, in South Africa, applications are very largely driven by ID number. Don't include date of birth and ID number, because ID number shows date of birth in South Africa anyway. So my advice, if you're applying in South Africa, is just give your ID number. My only kind of caveat on that is when I'm dealing with mature clients, I advocate that they take ID number off CV. And the only reason I say that is because South Africa is notoriously ageist. So I don't want a client who's 55 years old to be discriminated on based on her ID number before she's got a chance to get a foot in the front door. But yes, I think sort of for mid-level, just put your ID number on, because you're going to be asked for it in before you even screen out. So just save the trouble.
Okay, Chantelle, somebody also asked, does it make a difference to submit your CV on the first day of advertisement or on the last day of when the closing date is? Does it matter when you submit?
Absolutely none whatsoever. Remember, there's a process when you submit. Okay, so when you submit, it's going to go into your ATS system, or it's going to go into your tech first. Then it's going to get to a person. Now, it depends entirely on whether that person's having a good day or a bad day or an overwhelmed day or a non-day or a, you know, sometimes when I was advertising positions, I was like really on the ball and I was like checking out those applications on the first day. Other times I was completely overwhelmed and I was checking them out on the 10th day. It really doesn't matter, okay? What matters is what you do after you've applied to the position. I unpack a maximize strategy in my teaching and in my coachings, and I teach people to go above and beyond the application. to actually call the recruiter, to introduce yourself, to connect with them on LinkedIn, to do all of these extra steps that's going to get you noticed. And really what it's about is it's not about time delay. It's about how are you making yourself, or how are you making sure you get noticed. That's what it's about.
Okay, thanks, Chantelle. Saul asked, should I change my CV for each job that I apply for? And also, are cover letters still relevant?
Okay, so I believe in having a CV that stands like a lighthouse. And when I talk about a lighthouse, it must stand proud in who you are, what your value add is, and where you're going. So why would we want to change who you are and what your value add is? And that, to me, is a signal that perhaps your clarity is not quite, it's a bit diluted. You're applying for so many different diverse positions, you almost feel like you have to have so many different CVs. So narrow your focus down. Ask yourself, who are you, what's your value add, and where are you going? And have a CV that quantifies that. Which leads me on to cover letters. Cover letters are where you personalize and where you align. I taught you that alignment technique. So that's how you can start aligning and bringing relevance. Now, there might be one or two tweaks that might be needed on your CV, but I really don't believe in having multiple CVs and having different CVs or tailored CVs for every position. You might want to pull out a skill here or there, but you can personalize through your cover letter. And in terms of your second question, are cover letters still relevant? The jury's out on cover letters. Research has shown that 40% of people actually read cover letters. So the statistic is not high at all. But I'm going to challenge that. I work with my clients. I've seen the clients who are using the alignment technique and cover letters in the way that I'm teaching. It's an increased exposure. So first of all, when you send an email, why are you sending 2 attachments? I've told you, you've got 7 seconds of my time as a recruiter. I'm not going to open cover letter and CV. Your cover letter is the body of the email that you send. If you just do that simple change, you'll notice an increase. Of course, if you align as well. It doesn't help you summarize your CV. You've got to use your cover letter strategically. So yes, I believe cover letters are still relevant. But the problem is people don't know how to use them effectively. So bring them into the body of your email as a tip there.
Okay, Chantelle Mohammed says, hi, Chantelle. When applying for jobs in another province, how do we convince the recruiter that we are willing to relocate?
I love that question, Mohammed. This is, when I teach cover letters, I refer to this as one of the funnies, and you've got to address the funnies. Because I can honestly tell you, as a recruiter, if I was advertising in Cape Town and got a CV in Joburg and he didn't mention it, he went on the no path. So it's that simple. First of all, mention it in your cover letter. You will notice that although I'm applying for a position in Cape Town and I'm currently resident in Joburg, I'm well aware the position is in your province, first of all. Second of all, motivate. Whatever your situation is, just motivate. I have family in Cape Town who have a spare bedroom and have told me that I can move literally the minute I've got the job offer. Once I've worked my notice period, I'm there like a bear. It's that simple. Just be honest and motivate. Talk about it. Address the elephant in the room. Far too many applicants don't talk about it and they assume that you know, and you don't, and that's why they end up on the no pile.
Thanks, Chantelle. Somebody asked here, what is the most shocking discovery made by applicants that you've come across in your years of experience?
Gosh, that's a very broad question. Shocking discovery by applicants. Okay, perhaps not shocking in the way that you think, but this is what comes to mind. The most shocking discovery that my clients have experienced over the years is the existence and the power of the hidden job market. Honestly, between 70 and 90% of my clients get their results in the hidden job market. And it's shocking because the vast majority of people know this, have heard about it, yet do not use it, do not pursue it. So I think that's probably not what we were meaning, but for me, shocking discovery indeed.
Chantelle, I wonder, somebody didn't ask about it, but I'm curious. If you could maybe just share a bit more about this hidden job market and, some strategies one can use to access it.
Okay, so the hidden job market, Lisa, is effectively, if we come right back to my recruitment process right in the beginning, remember what I said to you, as a line manager, good managers are always looking for good staff. As a line manager, I know what the growth plans are in my team. As a line manager, I know the people in my team who are unhappy, and I know where I'm going to potentially need new staff in a while, but perhaps not yet officially. So that in itself is the definition of the hidden job market. As an applicant, what you need to do, and this comes right back to clarity, who are you? Where are you going? So you need to know who you are, what your value add is, and where you're going. So what you want to do as an applicant is create a list, a dream company list. I want to work for Google, I want to work for Coca-Cola, I want to work for Nestle, whatever it is, create this list. Then you go and start stalking the company. Now you're playing chess. Now you need to start thinking, how can I get in front of this company? Who are my bosses at this company? What are they experiencing? How can I become friends with them? How can I get in front of them? Can I ask them for an informational interview? How can I befriend them, network with them in a value-based way so that they remember me when they're hiring their next position? So that's pretty much it in a nutshell, Lisa. In terms of strategies, I do have some strategies in my WOW program, and we can maybe even look at putting on a potential one of these presentations for you guys in terms of hidden job market.
Thanks, Chantelle. The last question is, sorry, if one came in, I just want to publish that one quickly.
Mm-hmm.
If your work experience differs from the current qualification, should it be excluded on your CV?
I don't believe that any work experience is irrelevant. I believe that every piece of work experience you've ever done and everything you've ever done in your personal life, your entire life, is actually, in fact, a transferable skill. I also don't believe in aligning a CV to a qualification. I believe in aligning a CV to who you are, where you're going. Who are you and where are you going? And I'll give you a very quick example. I've learned over the years that I'm particularly good when I'm empowering people, when I'm teaching people, motivating, inspiring, all of that sort of thing. And I love doing that. And that's what led me to start this business. That's who I am. I'm an empowerer, right? So everything I do, whether I've got I don't have many qualifications, so I'm scratching here, but if I did a project management qualification, I would see how I could use that to empower people. Even though it's not relevant, it feels, totally divergent. I would never align my CV to my qualification or to my work experience. Guys, I'm a salesperson and a recruiter by experience, but yet I position myself as an empowerer because that's who I am. That's my value add, and I know that that's where I'm going. So I really position your CV. I come back to this lighthouse concept. Who are you? What's your value add? Position your CV as this lighthouse and use your qualifications and your experience to bolster it. I worked for a flippin' construction company once, but believe me, there are transferable skills that I got there that I use today in empowering and in coaching people. It's about who you are. It's not about what you have necessarily. And again, I know this is a bit of a controversial response. How does that sound to you, Lisa?
I think it's reasonable. I think it links to what you said, is that you really need to align what you've done previously, or the assets that you've got. I want to call your experience and your qualifications are your assets. So to align those assets to, what it is that you think the company could benefit from your contribution.
Absolutely, 100%. Good.
Okay, and then lastly, Chantelle, Bongani says that he desperately needs an appointment with you. So where would he be able to connect with you in order to make such an arrangement?
Oh, Bongani, you're a sweetheart. more than welcome to email me or find me on any of my social medias. I think email address would probably be the best. Chantelle, CHANTELLE @dragonfly.com.
I've just responded to his question, so your email address is in the Q&A. Chantelle, that brings us to the end of the questions. Are there any last comments or closing comments that you'd like to make?
I think it's become apparent, and it becomes apparent every single time I do these things. People are relying too much on, and really, please don't take this out of context. People are relying too much on a qualification to get them a job, or experience to get them a job. Now, in my coaching practice, I talk about my 3 swear words: skills, qualification, experience. You never use those words to quantify who you are. So my encouragement to you today is really go and do some deep pondering and figure out who you are. Find that golden thread in your life. It's what I did. It's what my clients are doing all the time. Find out who you are. What is your passion? What is your purpose? What do you love doing? Ask yourself those big questions, and then use your qualifications and your experience to bolster that. So turn the whole thing inside out. Create a message that says, this is who I am, this is my value add, this is where I'm going. How can you help me get there? And I promise you, you'll have better response in the job market.
Okay, Chantelle, thank you very much. Again, thank you, for everything that you've shared. Just from our side, I would just like to invite everyone who attended the session. We are really hoping to hear more from you about how you experienced today's presentation, or if you've got any questions, you're welcome to send that to us. So I've put the email addresses to Mrs. Mandu Makanya as well as myself on the screen. So feel free to just send us your comments or any follow-up questions that you might have. And that we will be publishing a recording of this session on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/UNISA Careers. So just for us to end off, I'm going to ask my colleague, Mr. Becky Mzobe, to just end off the session for us. Thank you, Becky.
Thank you and good day, everyone. I take this opportunity on behalf of my colleagues and staff members at Directorate of Counseling and Career Development to express our heartfelt vote of thanks to Chantelle and Ursula for sharing your expertise and knowledge with our students. As a Directorate, we are grateful of your contribution in developing and enhancing employability skills of our students. But not only for students, I as a UNISA employee, I also benefited, especially when you mentioned that the format of a CV is not necessarily important, but what is important is the content of a CV. I also learned that about the importance of career outcomes on a CV and it should be relevant. So I want to end by saying that your support to us as a directorate is always grateful and is appreciated. Once again, thank you, Chantelle. Thank you, Ursula.
Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Mandu, do you perhaps have any last comments before we end the session?
Thank you, Lisa. Becky has said a mouthful, but just to add on what he has just said, we are so grateful for the contribution that Chantelle is making to our students' career development. Chantelle, words cannot be enough to express our gratitude. Thank you so much, and for Ashla for joining us. We're looking forward to have the career aunt in the future joining us, and Lisa, and for putting everything together on this day. Thank you so much. And to our students, we just want to encourage you to continue to connect when we advertise these presentations. Also, spread a word of mouth to your peers and invite as many people as possible because this is beneficial to us. And what Chantelle is sharing with us and with all the other presenters, it's valuable for all of us. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you very much again for everyone who attended, and we hope to see you at the next session. As Mandu said, please keep an eye on my UNISA on the events calendar where we post announcements about these. Thank you and have a good day.
And the careers fair, before they go, Lisa, the careers fair that is coming up, perhaps you can make an announcement quickly.
Oh, okay. We've got a virtual grad expo coming up on the 4th and the 19th of August. It's a fully online event where you will be able to engage with employers and the opportunities that they are currently offering. So also please check on my UNISA for an announcement with a link of where you could register for the event, or also feel free to send either Mandu or myself an email to get more information about that. Thank you very much.